Hey, 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 everybody. Great to see you today on this Tuesday afternoon, evening, early evening, whatever the hell it is, for this amazing pop up that we got going on today. Well, you guys know what I like to do. You guys know that I'm into the criminology of it all, I'm into the investigation of it all. But of course, we didn't start out to do that in this video series. We actually started out just to show you the names, places, people, sites of the Son of Sam. And it kind of morphed over time into really this beautiful thing that we have going on. And of course, I, as a Son of Sam researcher, find it imperative, absolutely, totally important to gather as much oral history as we possibly can, having anything to do with Son of Sam, anything that was touched upon in Maury Terry's book. This is super important for the historical record. And, well, today's show is essentially an extension of last week's Manny Monday. Last week we had on Tracey Dupay, who will, of course, be back today as well. And at the end of the show, we got a call in, and it was her sister Noel. And all of a sudden, like, things were just like it was just like this great thing that just had happened, but we were having technical issues with Noel's microphone. So we said, let's try this again next week. And so Tracey and Noel have graciously agreed to come back, and we got all the technicals worked out. And we are just going to basically carry on where we left off. I just want to say to everybody in the chat, super, super great to see you. Hi to everybody. Of course, we appreciate everyone here. You guys are spending your precious time with us, and we could not appreciate it more. So before we bring in the ladies of the hour, I want to, of course, bring in my co-host on today's show. I think you all know him and you all love him. The one, the only, Eric Galati. Eric.
And my great friend and fellow investigator, Anne, who's honored me by allowing me sometimes to be a co-host without my request, Manny Grossman.
Thank you, Eric.
Noel Grossman.
That's right. That's my name, and don't wear it out. So, Eric, thank you so much. We've been doing a lot of shows lately, my friend, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And well, this one is a special one.
It is.
It really is. I just love these types of shows and they don't happen often, because oftentimes we're, ragging on Maury Terry, proving him wrong, showing where he made mistakes and errors and all that kind of stuff. But it's actually rare where we get these great oral testimonies and histories of the days and of people who were in the book. So I'm going to let you do the intros, Eric.
Okay. We have with us not only Tracey Dupay, the youngest daughter of Andrew W. Dupay. I found out the W is William. Andrew William Dupay Jr., the mailman who sadly committed suicide on September 20th, 1977. But we also have his sister, Noel, who was writing in the chats intelligently, responding to the three of us, paying close attention. And then she live streamed in, and Manny said, be a fellow guest of ours. And we were going to do it Sunday, but I had an appointment already from 2 months to see a friend from 35 years ago. And today is meant to be the day, because if not, I would have not done some research and come across something and had a certain discussion with someone who was a past guest who, well, I'll tell you what he sounded like when he called me about the Dupay sisters. So without any further interruption, Noel and Tracey Dupay.
Yeah.
Noel, hey.
Tracey,
Hey, everyone.
Back for the third time, March 4th, August 1st. And now Noel for the very first time actually as a guest. And I'm going to say the same thing I said to your sister, and this is true. I'm sincere, and I don't pay compliments, as we say in Italian. I am sincere. You are showing great courage and love, because obviously this is painful. You're giving courage and love also to people who've suffered like you. It's like a fellow group therapy. People don't like that, but it's true. And you show great strength. Now,
thank you.
Manny and I, this is a preamble, Manny, to lead into their father and what I found. Manny and I do Psychiatric Sunday, and there's fantastic psychiatric letters that a man, woman, or a group of people put up in the People versus David Berkowitz from Queens County. And we also had on in the winter last year a psychiatrist, Ron Morton Chase. He gave me his curriculum vitae. It's brilliant, brilliant. And I and Ron speak about the psychiatrists of David Berkowitz, nothing to do with Manny and I. After our third show, he called at 9 in the morning. He said at 12, brilliant, excellent. This is a top psychiatrist, not buttering me up. Then he called again, and I thought he was enthusiastic about it. And I actually heard tears in his voice.
Mm.
And he said he saw the show with your sister. I'm losing it now. I'm not. And what made him so sad is that what Maury Terry did in a way of making you have to be public talking about your father's death by creating this puzzle. Maury Terry, you know Alfred Hitchcock, the filmmaker?
Mm-hmm.
He has what's called the MacGuffin. That's a device he employs in his dramas. That's what Chase said. And he creates a puzzle for you and you're led down rabbit holes. That's what Maury Terry has done. And when he writes The Ultimate Evil, an investigation of America's most dangerous satanic cult, linking Charles Manson with Son of Sam, he puts in factual crimes, but there's no link to David Berkowitz. We don't actually see the facts. We know there's the Process Church of the Final Judgment, the satanic rituals, Maury's Nest, high-level criminals, a drug trafficking to Minot, North Dakota, a man who supposedly committed suicide but probably was murdered in North Dakota. All of these crimes he puts in this book without proof. And one of the facts he puts in is your father. So he creates this one-act play where he's good initially in investigating. But then as we're sitting looking at the drama, in come all these characters and we're all saying, but what have they got to do with the plot?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that includes your father. So what happened was, I remember seeing your father's name as I was going through these files. It's overwhelming. And Assistant District Attorney Herbert Leifer made a dossier of everything that Maury Terry wrote to his colleague, Assistant District Attorney Tom McMurphy, and or McCarthy. And they took him seriously. Now, Leifer and Terry, if you listen to their tape, Manny, yesterday I say he didn't interrogate Maury Terry. No, they got together as if they were having a beer.
Right.
You know, they were friends. And I have to say that at that point, Maury Terry was almost disgusted that they weren't doing enough. And he wanted Leifer to go with him to meet two private investigators. He didn't want to go alone.
Right.
So he speaks of getting the anonymous letter, which you read last week.
Right.
Very difficult to read. But that letter is an afterword to this letter here that I discovered. And it's the first time your father is mentioned, to my knowledge, October 31st, that's Halloween 1980. And it leads us in to an incident that involves a Yonkers police officer, Alfred Chiaverini, who lives at 3 Phillipsy Place, Phillipsy, Phillipsy Place. And he
Which
can
is
only...
right. Just so the audience knows, Phillipsy Place is right there, right 1 block north of Glenwood, right in this whole area where, of course, Andrew Dupay delivered mail and lived, where the Dupay sisters lived, where Berkowitz lived, where the Cars lived.
Mm-hmm. So that's the first time there is, and he thinks that there's a tie-in with the death of a mailman, doesn't say who, and Berkowitz. And then there's this following paragraph, which really is very different about your father than what he does in The Ultimate Evil. I quote word for word. This whole story rings a familiar bell.
Hold on. Where is this in this document?
It's in here.
Down lower. You just
it-
had it up and then.
Oh, got it. Right
okay.
here.
Yeah, it's that this whole story rings a familiar bell with the death of the allegedly threatened. He's not sure. He gets this story from someone that your father might have been threatened. He's not sure. Allegedly threatened mailman Andrew Dupay. Could Ray and Dupay be one and the same? I don't know who he refers to as Ray.
Ray was the person who was quote the anonymous letter writer said that the mailman's name was Ray, not Andrew.
Oh, I see. Well, I don't see how Dupay could have written the anonymous letter if he's deceased.
No. The anonymous letter writer, whoever that was, said that he got the name as Ray, not Andrew. So he was saying Ray, but he was describing Andrew.
Anyway, it's October 31st, 1980 that Maury Terry that I find so far the first time he writes of your father in conjunction with this story about Yonkers detective Alfred Chiaverini.
Yeah, and there was never been another mention of this guy Chiaverini again. And in fact, maybe what we should do is we should ask our Yonkers police sources. It doesn't say he was a detective, just a cop.
Yeah, a cop.
So
Yonkers police officer Alfred Chiaverini.
So we should be asking about this guy. This guy is somebody who may be important, may not be, but we should learn a little bit more about him. So Eric, is there anything more about this document before we get into today's information?
No, because it'll take us down a rabbit hole, and that's not what we want.
Right.
I just wanted to point out that's the first time your father was mentioned, as far as I know. Do you know of him mentioned before October 31st anywhere?
No. I mean, the only time I ever read about Andrew Dupay was in The Ultimate Evil. I mean, that was that.
Yeah.
But Eric, we got the publishing date on that, on The Ultimate Evil.
October 1987.
October 87.
Oh, okay.
So we have these two guests here.
Indeed, we do.
We need to start including them in the discussion.
Yes. Well, I had to leave them in.
Of course.
Noel.
So thank you so much, Noel, for joining us today. And of course, Tracey, great to see you back. Well, Noel, listen, we've already told the story in the previous two episodes where we dealt with this subject. So the audience is pretty well versed in the actual story from The Ultimate Evil of your father. In a nutshell, though, I'll just say that Maury kind of made it seem in The Ultimate Evil that the suicide of your father might have been connected to certain things that he saw, experienced, witnessed in and around the neighborhood of Pine Street. And that's where he kind of left it. And of course, the pages in a book only give us so much. And it's always great, of course, to have the actual people who experience this for real. So, Noel, I guess really just kind of take us to the beginning, really. Like, I kind of like start with your remembrances of your father. I know that you were older than Tracey. We don't want to get right into the tragedy right away. We want to hear more, we want to hear first about your remembrances, your recollections, the good stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't have a lot either because I was 5 when he passed, but basically, or maybe I'm thinking 6 or 7, right? No, 6. I'd have to go back and look at that. But basically, I just remember like little things, which of course, remember this was in the early 70s. So I do remember like sitting on his lap while he was driving one time when I was little.
It's the 70s.
The 70s, exactly.
They were great.
And and I remember, I don't know if this is a story I remember or if I remember it myself, or if my mom told me, but I remember I was stuck on my pacifier when I was little. And I think my mom had told me about it because she said I was talking to him one day when I was like 2 or 3, and I was like, and he's like, get that darn, and he didn't say darn thing out of your mouth, and he zipped it, like he just nipped it with his finger, and he went, shoo, and I went, okay, and I just went on my way. So I don't remember a whole lot, but I do remember there was never, to me, even up until the part where he was gone, we never lacked, like there was never like the stress that maybe when he was feeling that right beforehand. I don't recall ever having that. We were always family oriented. We would get together, and it was a multi-apartment house. So we would, and their driveway went down the back. We had a swing set. We had we have a picture of the whole family: my aunt, my uncle, the cousins. There's only a couple, and even when I want to say my great grandmother, when we were little, was still alive, or maybe this was a picture right before we were in it. I'm not sure. But one of our favorite pictures, my sister and I, is that picture. If you're looking at the picture of the family, and because they used to have a picnic table, my grandmother loved to eat outside and everything. So, they were always, my grandparents, my maternal grandparents that owned the house, were always very involved with us, and they were the ones that we ended up moving later on with, and they were always very welcoming to my dad, and because he lived nearby. But yeah, so I mean, there's not a lot I remember, but I guess the most I want to point out is that I don't remember also the like tension or stress or anything like that.
Well, that's actually quite commendable of your father, because a lot of
Considering,
parents, a lot of parents don't have that maturity and that foresight to keep things, hidden away from their kids that might affect them, especially as little children. So and so any specific remembrances of your father, or it's just basically just hazy?
Not a whole lot. I know when we were still living there was a snowstorm. I don't know if it was before or after he passed away. Like I said, there was never, I can say, a time when I can't even tell you if I felt that lack or there was that missing, because my grandparents were always around. But I remember that big snowstorm in the 70s where we had to like tunnel out to get to the street. And I just remember that we were home. I don't know if he was, because he was a mailman, and if he was still alive even that year. Like I'd have to look at the clock, the date, but just not in general. I just felt like we were family oriented, and my grandparents, it was just all good. And they had a house in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. So that was like, they used to go fishing there, like in the summers and stuff.
Right, which Tracey told us about last week, and we saw some pictures
so all of that together, it's just, like I said, I don't have any negative, but there was a lot where we just don't remember a lot, even that particularly that we've talked about.
Eric, any follow-up?
You remember him taking you fishing? Tracey had remarked on that, if I remember. He took you fishing. He used to go alone, and then
there's a picture of me holding up a fish, but I don't know if my grandfather and him had gone out on the boat, because I think it might have even been in Massachusetts. But again, like I just don't even remember. But I don't remember him being there on like any trip where we were fishing. I just remember like holding it up.
Trip fishing with your dad?
Say that again, Eric, please.
Didn't you say, Tracey, last week that you went fishing with your dad? That's when he did take you out fishing, before he used to go alone?
Yes.
Right, like it says in the Ultimate Evil that he normally went fishing alone, but I guess in the months or weeks prior to his suicide, he started including you guys in that.
And that could even been like he went with my grandfather, or he went with work buddies. I don't know really. And we were home with the family. And then instead he decided like, okay, we're going to take the kids with us. I don't really know. Because that wouldn't have been like a summer where we could have been up in Cape Cod going fishing. So, and we did go to the Catskills a lot.
And it's logical, actually. It's not necessarily a mystery. It's because you weren't little babies. And the fear of a baby falling in the water, easily to handle a more grown-up little child. and therefore time that you could go in the boat securely with him and someone else, obviously.
Right. And it could have even been in a way, since it wasn't this summer, or even if it was like we were in the cats, like, you know, like it could have just been that we went out of town for maybe even a Bear Mountain, which is, you know, where we ended up living not too far from when we did move out.
Right.
Like, or out at that other park where the whole barbecue thing allegedly happened. I don't
Glen
know.
Island. Well,
Glen
that's what I was going to
Island
ask.
or
That's what I was going to ask next. Like, do you recall this Glen Island? Do you recall this incident where he allegedly got into a fight with an Italian man?
not at all. I do just remember, I feel like I asked my mom about it when we were older, and then she kind of stated that like me, or it was the letter that we talked about. It's very hazy, but
Right.
I don't remember even the pictures of us with the animals. They could be in the Catskills, they could be somewhere else, because I'm not sure, and I
Right.
don't even remember that part except for the picture. But what I was saying is that maybe like he would normally, maybe it would be on shift if we didn't have school or something, and then he decided to start coming with us, like, you know what I mean, like on
Right.
that weekend, instead of working a Saturday, or maybe instead of staying home where he maybe catch some sports or do something, he came with us. I
Right.
don't know, or maybe because we weren't at the park because of the barbecue stuff.
Right.
If that even happened, to be honest with you.
If it even
I feel like
happened,
that
right.
was a story that I got about when I was asking, but I don't know if it was related to any of this stuff.
I mean, if you think about it, Maury Terry had to have spoken to somebody in your family.
I thought it was my grandmother, like it did say, but again, I was in like middle school by then, so
Right. So you weren't privy to any of this? You weren't hearing, "Hey, there's some writer coming around asking about your dad." No one talked about it?
No, because like I said, we moved along. Except for the story that I was starting to share last week about, you know, like when I was in the stroller and they were like, "Hey, she looks like the postman," and my mom was like, "She does, doesn't she?" Because she liked to mess with people, but because that was the whole thing, the milkman, the
The
postman, it
postman.
was just
Yeah.
too easy for them, you know, like a sailor with someone in every port. But
Right.
other than that, like we just moved on, and my grandparents from Yonkers used to come to our house in Westchester, so we still had that kind of connection. And my aunt, she now lives like in Croton area, or like more in Westchester, but so we had maybe once a month they would come up and we would see them, and we used to visit them when we lived there, and my aunt lived pretty close to her mom and stuff. But other than that, like we just kind of moved on. And like I said, my mom went into kind of helping other people that had gone through that. And we got plugged into this church and we learned guitar and stuff. And so we had a community. And I always understood that we left to do like the white flight kind of thing that people did, because the neighborhood was getting
The neighborhood was changing. Right. Right.
but
Right.
now looking at all these things, I definitely think that I was told that my father was very different from that alleged camp incident to when this happened. So whether that pushed him into more of a funk, and then it led to that, and he actually did take his life or not, I have no doubt in my mind that there was a shift in his behavior.
From that incident on Glen Island.
From the incident, the alleged
My
incident.
mom definitely, we did speak about that. And I remember that she said whatever from that time. So, but was it the actual incident that was given as the instance, or was it
something else happening?
The thing that he may have saw too much of.
Right, right. Because if you think about it, the timing would have been, because Berkowitz didn't really start his crazy wigging out on everyone until in the neighborhood. Well, he started really on what, December, Christmas Eve 76 with the shooting of Rocket. And then of course in all of 77 he was shooting Harvey the dog, he was firebombing the Netto house, he was sending crazy letters. Probably if your father saw any of that, it probably was just, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, probably just the letters that he was delivering. Right.
Yeah.
Because how would he wouldn't have been around New Year's Eve on Wicker Street hanging out watching a dog get shot. He might have been there the morning that Harvey was shot and seen Berkowitz do it. That's always a possibility because it happened at 9 a.m. and it was right in his,
Yeah.
you know. But it's just weird to me that some little incident at Glen Island, a fight over a barbecue allegedly, would shift him so much to then want to, a family man to want to then take his life. I don't know, something weird about that to me.
Well,
Yeah, and there wasn't that much of a timeline in between, was there? I mean, for it to be that.
Right. Do you think your mom was just giving you a story just to, not to shut you up or anything, but just to appease your mind and let you move on?
No, I don't. And I'll tell you why. Because the other thing I think, well, my grandparents, unfortunately, on my father's side, were drinkers, and
Uh-huh.
even when he got with my mom, he she used to kind of send him. My grandmother on my dad's side used to send him and his sister to church together by themselves, and she would stay home. And then my mom, it was hard for her to continue that relationship and let them come up every month because there was well, maybe Noel looks more like our side of the family than Tracey with the darker
Right.
hair at the time, or maybe whatever. There was a lot of crazy stuff. But and then he started going to church with my mom when they met and before they got married, or they had a church wedding. But then his mom said one thing to him and he stopped going to church with my mom. So she kind of had a little bit of that hold. But even though he still found a way to break away and get, be a family man and everything, and be a loyal worker and everything. But I think there was that between the drinking in their family, and I feel like at some point I was told that he did start going, staying, because that's what you did in the day too, with the postal workers. You go out for a beer or two or three after work, or maybe there was even a card group. I don't know. But I think that my understanding, the sense that I got was not only did he digress emotionally and become more protective, but he also became more there was more drinking and smoking. He
more
always before he used to smoke in the bathroom and put it in the toilet.
Uh-huh.
So something, to me, I translate that as something affected him, either the conversations or the stuff going on and what he's the letters or whatever it was. I
Right.
think there had to be a few dynamics that all together really rattled him. And it wasn't like anything his mom was saying. I'm just saying that because he was predisposed kind of to that,
Uh-huh.
that I think maybe he turned to it as well and was trying to calm his nerves.
Right.
But in general, I don't think it was just that he was having a pre-midlife crisis or he was just so nervous about a threat on his life. I don't buy that whole, even if it happened, it's not what led to what happened.
Noel,
Right. Oh,
could
wow.
you
Okay.
clarify something you said about drinking? Who was it that was drinking? His parents or he?
His parents, my grandfather in particular, but I don't know about my mom, my grandmother, but she was kind of very controlling, whether she drank or not. And then my dad, my understanding was that when he started to unravel, everybody wants to be in the spotlight. When he started to unravel, I felt like there was a connection that he was either staying at the bar more, or it was, at that time. And I don't know if it's something he had done and had a drink or two, and then you go home, and now it's oh, I'm coming home messy, or whatever,
Right.
or you know what I mean? Because he's trying to self-medicate away all of that turmoil. Because there was nothing going on in his family at that time that I know of that would have caused him, or even I'm stuck in this. He wanted to be a family man. I don't ever doubt that.
But
So
this is just an interesting aspect of Andrew Dupay that we never knew before, though, and certainly was not touched upon in The Ultimate Evil, that he might have been descending into more serious drinking at this time as well.
Right.
Is that from the family?
And I don't know if part of it is that he was in the bar anyway and it was social, and then now he's having more to deal with all this stuff. Or if
Right,
whatever.
what came first, the chicken or the egg, right?
And then we know that doesn't help you if you're depressed and you have a gun and all of this is going on. So it's possible that it still was he took his life. But I don't know. The murder thing to me is there wasn't enough time, I don't think, and there wasn't enough. I don't know. But
No.
Yeah, I know that Eric was actually interested in that aspect, but I think before we get into that, I think I just would like to, because this was actually pretty eye-opening and intense to hear. I would like to, if you're comfortable, just take us to the day of, like, because I know that in the book, it talks about how you and Tracey were in a bathtub and your father walked away. To the extent that you're comfortable recounting this story, we would just like to get this on the historical record.
Tracey.
Well, Tracey already told her
Okay.
story. Noel, it's your turn.
Me?
Yeah.
All I remember, I don't remember that. I remember being in the bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my mom being in there with us. So,
Okay.
I mean, I'm now telling you something different because there could be a different timeline. But
Right.
what I remember is we were in the tub. My mom was there. It was never really a thing I remember my dad doing. It's not that it never happened. I just don't remember a lot of that.
Uh-huh.
You say that your dad was there with your mom giving the bath to the both of you?
No, from what I got, it was Tracey and Noel in the bathtub with their mother.
Oh, not that Daddy was there also with them.
Do you remember, Trace? No?
Didn't you
Tracey,
say that?
what do you
I
remember?
believe he was there. I remember him being there and then leaving. And then not too after that, the shot, and then I looked up at Mom.
This takes to a particular question. Who told you eventually, or in later years, that he said to your mother, "I'm going downstairs," and I think you said, Tracey, he said he would be back, but he said he had to go downstairs.
Yes.
Who said that he made that statement to your mother? Who later told you that?
I think my
Tracey?
mom. I think my
Your
mom.
mother told you that he actually said that to her.
Yeah.
And did anybody ever mention from the time he went downstairs to the basement, how much time lapsed before the gunshot was heard?
No.
Noel, do you have any recollections of this timeline or anything?
I just remember that my mom was in the bathroom with us. I felt like either I sensed the shot or there was something that caught my mom's attention, and then she left, and then next thing we knew, she was out on the couch, and we were our neighbors or my grandma or someone came and even helped us dry off, didn't they? I don't remember, but I remember, yeah, someone helped us get out of the bathroom because my mom was on the couch, right, Trace?
Yes.
Or do you think then the next memory I have is this, that she was on the couch and the people that were taking us to their house down the street were like walked us out, and I saw people around her consoling my mom.
Oh my God.
And but there could be a lapse in my memory too, because I can't remember from the being in the tub to going out the door. Obviously, there had to be someone help us get dried off and changed and go.
Right.
Did your mother
By the time we were leaving, she was on the couch. People were around her, and then we were walked to the other family first.
But your mother later on in life, or anyone, did they ever mention about the time from when he left, said he was going downstairs, and the gunshot? How much time went by? Did they ever mention that at all?
No.
No.
I don't
Yeah.
remember him even.
I mean,
being
you guys
there,
were three and 5 years old. I mean,
No, but I mean, later
this
in
is all
life,
hazy.
Somebody said if somebody repeated that later in life, man.
No, we didn't really
Right.
talk about it that much.
Now
We were told that he was cleaning his gun and it went off.
Right.
So,
Oh, you were
for
told
years.
that. For years, you
Yeah.
were told that.
Yeah.
And you never
And I
thought
never
to-
knew why my mom didn't like guns. And my grandfather had one, but he put it up and away.
Wow.
But
So
that's
wait.
what we were told till I was like 12 or 13, I want to say. So that's another reason why we never talked about it, because
Right. But it wasn't like no one, because it's kind of unusual to be in the middle of a bath and say, you know what, I got to go clean my gun. But I guess you just never.
No, I think maybe it's confabulated that together. I don't know. I don't remember. But that's what we were told for a long time. I don't know, Tracey, when you were told that it wasn't that way. Was it when she showed you the letter?
Tracey?
Yeah. Yes, sorry. Okay. The cat stepped
Yeah.
on something.
It's okay.
Could I ask?
Wait, hold on. We didn't get an answer to that. I forgot exactly what the question was,
Were
though.
you told also, when did you get told that it wasn't that he was cleaning his gun? Was that when you asked to see the letter, or when mom told you? And when was that she told you that?
When I asked this letter.
But how did you know there was a letter if he was cleaning his
Correct.
gun?
Right.
You were told the same thing, right?
Yeah, that he's cleaning his gun.
And then when did you find out? Like, how would you know to even ask for a letter?
I don't know. I just came out of the blue and asked mom. I said, "Did he leave a letter?"
She in middle school did get there was a time when my sister was really upset, and I think it was hitting her. I don't when my grandparents retired and we weren't living with them anymore and they were farther away, and it's middle school or whatever, but I just remember there was a weekend when my sister kind of hit a wall. I don't know if something happened at school or whatever, and she was just crying, and she was like crying out for, like, "Daddy, where are you, Daddy?" Because she was very emotional. And then, so I don't know, maybe mom told you then, or I don't know, or maybe after that you went to counseling. I don't know, but I know for a fact that I did not know till, I want to say, I was in high school, so maybe it was around that time when this happened with Tracey, so that then she maybe went to counseling or whatever. Like, originally, my mom told me that we did go to a counselor too. We call it a talking doctor. And I went, and later on, we took my oldest nephew, when my sister separated from his dad. But she said that I didn't like it. So it's not that we didn't talk about things in my family, but this woman was whatever. My mom mentioned that I wasn't reacting very well to the lady. Like, I was saying, "Oh, you're doing play therapy. Oh, this is this and this and what about your dad," or whatever. And I was just like, "Yeah, well, I don't even know what I said." And I hesitate to say this because there's probably no connection, but I probably said something like, "Oh, this is a dog and he doesn't like you." And he's like, like, "Stay away," but no connection. But there was just like, we tried. So my mom, at being a nurse and being just like a good Catholic lady, she was very compassionate, and she had us in counseling as much as, she just wanted to make sure we weren't really, really affected by this loss, this great loss. And then for her, like I said, being in that place where she helped other widowed widows, this network where people could call and she could talk them through the harder beginning times. All of that. But so then it's kind of odd, right? That she says to me, till I'm like in my teens, he was cleaning his gun and it went off. But I think that was partly her way of like helping, if that makes sense. Like, they continued to provide a family unit that was loving and nurturing. And then, so why like kick up stuff? It's not going to change anything.
That makes sense.
To the point where if they really thought it was a hit, for example, we wouldn't have just been moving away. We would have moved away a lot sooner, because I feel like there was a little bit of a delay. Like, I don't think we would have stayed another night in that house.
So the thought of this being a potential murder, Tracey in our first show, she felt that was a possibility. But you're saying that we
were kicking it around, and I think maybe, and I not want to put words in her mouth, but I was also kicking it around then. But that was when we were still looking at the cars and all of the other players. Yes.
You mean you were influenced by the Son of Sam?
That was when we thought there was more to it, and maybe even the process and this and that. Like, was it mob connect?
Okay, wait, hold on.
You got that from the book?
Hold on, right? Yes.
Or not mob connected, but you know what I mean? Like, if there was foul play, what?
My question is, well, okay, so obviously you read Maury Terry's book, because you're hold on.
I didn't. No, I didn't. But when you were talking with my sister the last time, and we were starting to go over this part of it, it was still in that time before we were totally saying different things than I understand there to be now. Now we're not saying that all of that other stuff was even involved.
Right, but so you're saying that this wasn't happening in real time back in the 80s, where you were reading The Ultimate Evil and talking about this as a teenager.
No. This was later. Just in your series. And then, so back then, I would have, that same day that she said, I believe it could be, I was starting to say, maybe, but then putting together, like I was saying about the depression and the
Right.
drinking,
The drinking.
I don't, and I think maybe because of the hit option, but I didn't realize he was their mailman. And then,
Right.
but then we also pulled one of the things out of the, that whole. So whether it was connected or not, I just don't think that it was that connected, is what I'm trying to say. So now I think more and more that whatever it was that he did see was twisted, and it did push him into a spiral.
Wait, I don't understand. You just said you don't think it was connected, but then you just said what he
No,
did see.
connected to his route and whatever he saw or whatever. There was something about it that affected him tremendously. Do I think that he thought there was an actual hit on his life? Not really.
Noel,
He wouldn't take his life to stop it. I just think something tipped him into spiraling downward.
Right. And it might have been, and Eric, please give me 1 second here. And it might have been just happening around the same time that he was getting back into drinking. And those two events, I don't want to say descent into drinking because we don't know, but it sounds like he was starting to drink a little more. And this might have been a familial issue that we never knew about, of course, us as Son of Sam researchers. We never knew that about your paternal grandparents.
Right.
And then that drinking coupled with something that he might have seen on his route. And I mean, of course, the only thing I can think that he saw on his route was either Berkowitz shooting a dog or these letters that he was delivering to the cars and the
I think
meadows.
it was probably the letters and maybe the way that the letters were given to him, or I don't, you know what I mean? Because back in the day, it was more likely that you'd be like, okay, here, instead of putting it in the outbox, whatever.
But why would, it's just so strange though to me, like why would a family man to take that home with him? You know what I mean? Like if I was a mailman and I saw some crazy letters,
is something about it was deep. Like he knew. And remember the whole state of Yonkers then, the Son of Sam, and then to find out that he knew who, maybe that was it. He connected
right,
that it was him before.
It did happen after, right? It did his suicide was after the arrest. So
because that would be enough to tip me if I was in his shoes, because he had so many interactions with this man.
Yes, but your father was also delivering mail in 74 and 75, correct? And in 75
I couldn't tell you.
75, there's definitely the harassment of the Nato family.
According to the Nettos themselves, according to the police reports, no, but according to the Nettos, they were receiving letters as early as late 1974.
Yeah, and I believe the Natos
I believe the Nettos too,
because of certain historical events that happened. I got to clarify something, Noel. It's very interesting. Your mother, we hear for the first time that your mother told you that he was cleaning his gun and it accidentally went off. And then you said, well, I never really thought of the murder, the aspect of him being murdered. But who brought up for the first time to you suicide? Where does suicide come in? And that's
what I was, okay, go ahead.
Is called a suicide note. Where does that first come into play?
I think that's what I was kind of saying when my sister was starting to question and miss him a lot. And my mom was starting, I think that's around the time when she may have started talking to someone, or in talking to my mom. I do remember at some point around that time, and when I was in high school, she was in middle school, that my mom told us that the actual story was that he took his life. Because that's when we knew she was still doing the widow to widow network, and she was a widow, and it wasn't because I feel like we talked about it too. Like it's not, but he had a shotgun to my understanding. Like I don't understand, but I feel like there was some point where I did talk to my mom about it around this time. When we were older, she was like, that's why. Because I could never understand why she didn't like guns or to be around guns. And obviously, I always thought it was because he was cleaning his gun and it went off. But that's not how it works. And so I think around that time, we just started asking questions, and she started telling us the actual
And did you say the letter was a suicide note? Is she the first one to bring that up?
I think so, but I honestly don't. I don't know.
before we get into that, because I definitely want to ask, but Patrick Lewis, my man from Ethiopia here, and we got a guy
Wow.
from Ethiopia watching. Isn't that amazing? He actually, this question is actually a good one. As a family man, did Noel or Tracey's mother ever mention that your father wanted to leave the area in order to protect his family?
Not that I know of, but
Neither do I. I don't remember hearing anything about that.
So, Patrick, that was a great question, and I want to just put out there for the audience, you have Tracey and Noel Dupay at your disposal here. If you want to ask any questions, please feel free to call in.
And
So back to the suicide note. So you're in your teens, okay? So you didn't learn. You always thought that your father had accidentally shot himself while cleaning a gun. You guys get to be a little older, a little more mature, a little bit more conscious and cognizant and about the realities of the world around you. And then your mom finally, after talking about it, says to you that it was indeed a suicide. How did the whole topic of the note come up?
Well, I was having a hard time dealing with the fact that I miss my dad and I didn't know what really happened to him. So I just talked to my mom and I asked her, did he leave a note? And she said yes, and then she let me see it.
So that's how she basically admitted to you. She didn't come right out and say it. You just said, did he leave a note? And she said yes, and that's kind of how you found out?
Yes.
Or did she come out? Okay, so even then you kind of were like dancing around the issue, sort of, not coming out explicitly saying it. And so, Noel, what about your experiences with that and the note? Because we're very interested in the note and what it said.
And I wish I had more. I don't remember. I was super busy in high school and college, and like we just go onward and upward. Like I don't look at
right.
I am, as you probably have seen, I'm the more logical, my sister is the more sensitive one, and so I'm like, okay, all right, let's keep going,
right.
So I don't remember any of that. I vaguely remember that there was a note, maybe. I don't even know.
But you see, they're saying no. Who first said, though, that note was necessarily a suicide note?
Because I feel like she showed my sister, and I don't remember. Maybe I saw it after that, but I know
Tracey,
that.
To recount the story again. We got Tracey here. So Tracey, what did the note say and all that?
It said about the Italian family and fighting over the thing, and then it was a lot of paranoia. It's like, because I looked at it and I looked at my mom and I said, "There's a lot of paranoia in here." Because it was about the people at the Italian family, and then tell Tracey, Noel, I love them, and he signed it. I don't remember the rest of what it said, but that's mostly what it said on the front of it. And then I love Tracey.
Picnic grill.
Hold on, Eric. What'd you say? Because you're beginning cut out. Ask that again, Eric, please.
It was an argument over a picnic grill. Who had the right to use it first on Glen Island?
I mean, that sounds just we're speaking objectively here. I mean, I don't want to sound insensitive, but that sounds like part and parcel with the paranoia you were talking about too. Even Maury Terry wrote that it stretches the credulity to think that incident at Glen Island would have triggered this.
But then that's why I'm saying, with his family history, I think he was already on edge. Even if it triggered him, I feel like he did see stuff, or he knew there was just this bad weirdo vibe in the area. I don't know what it was, but I don't have a problem with that anonymous letter saying that if I could picture him saying that. And then because his family did internalize a lot and they drank, and there was this stuff that I think that he didn't have good coping skills, and he was more likely to use that to help himself feel better, not to check out. And I do think that something shifted. And my mom definitely, I remember her saying that from that time, there was paranoia, but there was a shift. Like there was something. And even if his family was that way and he was drinking socially, and then there was no other thing in our family that happened that we know of that my mom would have told us if we, she would have said, well, I think it was also this, and this related to that when we asked her, and she didn't. So something about this whole situation to me did affect him.
Right.
Noel.
But also coupled with the fact that he might have been predisposed mentally at that time. I'm not saying mentally through all time, but mentally at that time to have this, whatever he was seeing, trigger.
Because they didn't say just, oh, he started drinking more, oh, he started staying out more. They said he changed and became broken. He was not the same man. Like, like paranoid and he was in fear. And that's, even if everyone's talking about Son of Sam and you realize you're the mailman, like, it's not enough. It wouldn't have been enough, like, even with the predisposition, unless he saw or something he knew about that it was enough, because it was messed up.
So from what I'm gathering, Eric, I'm sorry, Eric, real quick. So from what I'm gathering here, you actually seem to think that Son of Sam is a part in your dad's suicide. Potentially,
because he was there. There's no way it wasn't. Right. And there's no way that incident at the barbecue could have.
I agree.
Even with his family history.
Eric, I apologize. Please ask. No,
you don't need to apologize. It's so exciting, and Noel is so thorough, and so is Tracey. Noel, I'm being meticulous. You said he became protective only of himself or of all of you?
I never said that. I don't know who said it. It's whatever. If they say that's what happened in Maury Terry's book, maybe it was my grandmother.
No,
I don't remember any of that part. I just said that was part of what we were saying.
Oh, okay. I just thought that you had said previously he started to be protective. But who was the first person or people who said that he was frightened? Who first said this? He's frightened of something. That came up in previous shows. What was he frightened of?
Well, I think
rights allegedly threatened, but in the previous shows, there's a fright that causes the shift. Who first said it? Your mother or people at work saying, gee, Andrew's changed. He's frightened about something.
I don't know.
Yeah. So,
because all that I know is that my mom said that he changed. So it wasn't so much that it was, and that's why I think that it's not so unlikely that it could have been a suicide because of the downward spiral, but definitely triggered.
Now, Book Club Warrior 22 asks, how did Maury know what the details of what the note contained? So obviously this note was shared with Maury Terry.
I don't know what my grandmother shared with him, but I think, I don't know if she shared the note. I doubt that she did, honestly, but I think that she just shared that part, I thought.
Right, because all he wrote was the thing about Glen Island, unless he did his selective editing bit again and left out all the paranoia that Tracey spoke about.
Well, my mom probably wasn't. My grandmother probably wasn't relaying that either. I don't know. Right. I know that he was like he's changed. Like he was more paranoid, and like that coupled with everything, he began to unravel, and I believe that it is all related to this.
Right.
Do I think that it was, the other stuff?
No, Manny. I want to. We speak of shotgun blast by mistake and suicide. Manny, you want to play that excerpt from March 14th, where I ask an alternative to suicide to Tracey, and this way.
I had it up, but I got rid of it because I thought we sort of talked about that already. So I didn't.
Oh.
Well, I can get it back. While I get it back, I just want to ask a question, and then I'll get the video back when we're talking. So when the 80s came around and Maury Terry's book comes out and your dad's in it, did any talk in the family start up again after that? Noel's laughing. Why?
I didn't know about it till your show last year.
Me either.
Really?
I didn't either.
I told you we went forward. We're not going. Who cares? And I love true crime. Just oddly enough, you would think I would want to stay away from it, whether I thought it was a suicide or not. I lost my father from that, but
right. Well,
no, I didn't know anything about it. And then Tracey's she's bought it in the interim, and I looked maybe at a page or two, but we got things to do in life. I don't. I trust your judgment, and we've been following along a lot, especially since the beginning of the series.
So no one ever in your family brought up Son of Sam, any of this stuff before.
No.
No, I'll tell you what we remember, and this is the God's honest truth. I doubt that my sister remembers much more than this. There was this guy who probably was a mental health altered individual, but he used to hang out the window in the summer. He would just go and go and go. We're gonna come on down to our place. We're gonna have a happy 4th of July, and we can. That's all I remember about that neighborhood. Besides that walk and back and walking home from the school that was up and around the corner. That I don't remember a lot, but that we just it was, you know, and the blackout. I remember there being a blackout, I think,
that was 77.
Yeah.
And I think I remember the snowstorm that you were talking about. That happened in 1978, unless there was one before then that I don't. But we have pictures in my family album of in 1978 there was a massive blizzard in New York. It was like 3 or 4 feet. And so that's
and
probably
that might have
the one
been right before we moved in the summer, I think.
Right. So Eric, I have the excerpt up. Do you want me to still play it?
Yeah, Noel, I thought it might, instead of rehashing it coldly, I thought I would ask you this question, Manny and I would ask you this question, by way of how I asked your sister this past winter, March 14th. Listen to her answer, and then I would like to know how you correspond to it.
Okay, so this segment is 1.5 minutes long.
One other question, Tracey,
Sure.
and I'm not being insensitive. This is with compassion for you and your family. The story is he committed suicide. We take that as a fact. But you were upstairs, right?
Yes.
Did it ever cross anybody's mind that he might have actually been murdered and it was made to look like a suicide?
No one spoke of it, but I had my own opinion about it.
What is it?
I feel that he could have been murdered.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, hold on.
The proximity. They're upstairs. He's in the basement.
But didn't you say that he left to go downstairs to the basement? Was there like a knock on the door, or was there some phone call?
That I don't remember. I just remember being in the bathtub and then hearing the shot.
Tracey, what did you over the years think that it was possibly a homicide and not suicide?
Yes.
What made you think that?
I just couldn't believe my dad would do something like that and leave us like that.
Was there ever any law enforcement that echoed that sentiment to you, or privately thought that your dad was murdered and told you, or anything like that? Or was it just...
It's just something I felt.
Okay, Eric.
One other question, Trey. Noel, what do you think in contrast or in agreement? And this is not pitting you against your sister. Just, I thought it was more... We can't hear you.
Sorry. Yeah, I see the big. No, I was saying that I just thought that, as I kind of like I was saying a little bit earlier in the conversation, and I don't know if Tracey still feels that way now that we've done the research and walked through stuff.
Right, a lot has come out since then regarding Son of Sam.
He could still have been, or no?
Yes, I still think he could have been murdered.
Okay. And I disagree. I thought it for a few minutes when you guys were doing that show and before we kind of got some more intel. I was always curious about our neighbors that took us to their house, because I feel like they had a German Shepherd and it was up that way, but I don't know if they were those neighbors or if they lived in another area close, but it seemed like it was their house. But I do not think now. I entertained it for a few minutes during this little dance in the beginning, but as more information came out with the Netos, and I don't remember him being there or saying any of that. There's time for him to have written it out. He was digressing from my understanding. He had changed from that, whatever that time period. And I think that he did take his life. But I do think he was triggered when he shifted. It wasn't just an incident over a barbecue grill.
Mm-hmm.
So I always thought it was. I never questioned it. And then the note, I think either my sister told me about it and or my mom showed me at the same time when she told me that what had actually happened. So I had no reason not to believe her. I didn't even know about Maury Terry's. I still didn't know about it till like last year. So I'm back, and I entertained it a little bit while we were talking and looking and see if process and the cars and whatever, because that could have been a wonky little setup. But I don't find any other connections except the mailman seeing more than they want to or should. And that in that state of mind, it means that it connects to me, that it just it was not personal leaving us. He didn't want to. It was his mental health was altered from all as a result of all of this going on in the city and in that neighborhood. At that
coupled with his research, with his potential descent into drinking as well.
Yes.
Well, Eric.
It could have been genetic, the drinking also, since your grandparents.
Right. I mean, that's
people
kind of
believe alcoholism is genetic. Some people don't. I objectively, because I don't play God Almighty, it could have been suicide. Many times, this happened with Ernest Hemingway, who came from a history of suicide. They tried to say he was cleaning his hunting gun and it went off, but he did commit suicide, Hemingway, with his hunting rifle. And there are mistakes, but how often can there be a mistake with somebody with his hunting rifle or a gun that he knows how to use?
Right. And I mean, no one cleans.
Guns don't go off by accident unless there's a defect.
Right. And most gun owners, when they're cleaning their guns, they're gonna empty the chambers and make sure it's clean.
What I question, whether it's murder, which I keep open to, or suicide, but not an error. What was the length of the letter? Was the letter written from the time he descended and went down to the basement, or did he pre-write the letter?
I was going to ask that too. Do you think that letter was already written? Either of you?
Possibly.
Anything's possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to say. So, Eric, I mean, that's a sign. It's a sign. You guys are involved.
Harvey's ghost.
There's a dog back there. There's Harvey. You guys.
No, Sargento.
Sam.
How's Sargento doing? He was hit by a car.
Yeah. He's doing good.
Perfect timing.
Sarge.
Oh, he's supporting you, Manny.
That's great.
He's like, I'm here. I shall rise.
Woo, that's awesome. All right. Well, listen. I would like to invite, of course, anybody to call in, but I am pretty satisfied with today's show. Eric, do you have any final questions?
No, I don't. I don't have any final. Well, I have questions to continue to ask because you, Tracey, are one of the few who actually believes that Terry has given us interconnections to something. All right, what do you think?
David Berkowitz better not listen to this.
No.
Actually, Tracey, if you can, mute your mic if you're not speaking, because the howling is only, but I'm sorry. Eric, what was your question again?
Well, what is your opinion? Last week, your sister kind of made a comment about Maury Terry. It wasn't quite positive, but it wasn't really damning. What is your opinion of Maury Terry, and also how I started the preamble off about what he did? Do you feel there was something definitively negative, or that he just couldn't put it together?
Me or
yes,
Tracey?
you know, El.
Okay. I, again, wasn't aware he existed, and then so I kept an open mind. I am very logical, and I love true crime, and I love journalism and stuff. But even now, especially now with mainstream media and everything, I tend to think, through all the research you guys have done, that this was personal for him, as well as wanting to earn money, personal and economic.
Right.
And like you said, what did you say? He's a coincidental assist to the police with these crimes that he put on. Like, what is accidental?
He worked
accidental genius.
Yeah, I'll give him that. But I think that he was sloppy. I think that he had an agenda. He knew these people. This was personal, but he didn't follow through on the right things. And I hate that he had Manny and many others engulfed in his book repeatedly for years. That's unacceptable to me because it was it was like a fantasy. Like it should have been called, I don't know, a different title. Like, and been a Disney movie almost, or a horror, like a Friday the 13th. Because it was, what is this? And my sister was in radio a little bit and loves music and stuff. And I do love music too. And we loved when these the audio tapes came out. And I just wish that I've had time. I haven't had time really to get in them, but I loved even how Eric did that when you did the Reader's Theater. I love that. I didn't even care that it sounded a little different or a lot different. And I love that you had him keep that accent.
Well, baby, you just come on down and see me sometime. You know what I mean? Because you're a Georgia
Tom Turkey.
And there's something about realia, that historical, this is the print of the 1980 typing. And let's do this research. I love that about your channel and about your work, both of you. And I think that's why in the short version, no. But this version, I'm going to end it, bring it into a wrap now and say that, yeah, it was epic. I love Eric. So, oh, stop. Come on, stop. Come on. But I'm going to say that I don't think that Maury Terry he wanted to know the truth. I think he wanted to make money and I think he wanted to uncover stuff, but you can't it was sloppy. It was sloppy, like a lot of legacy mainstream media nowadays. So
Noel, thanks for that. After the show, I'll give you the $500 I promised you.
The tragedy of the sloppiness is that all the cases are true, but they're separate crimes. But I will say this.
That's what's sloppy about it. Why ultimate evil? I don't know. Not evil.
In the Maury notes, he does say, please do something, investigate what I'm giving you, because I can't do this. I want to get back to my life and write my story. He does say that.
Yeah, please go.
Yeah, but he didn't. That's the thing. It became his life.
And the only thing that I wish we could have more of is the people in the post office, whoever worked with him or whoever knew. I know there was one contact possibly that was related to someone that took over his route. And I know she ghosted you or whatever. Yeah, people are busy. I would probably be perceived to have ghosted you multiple times, but not intentionally. It's just the nature of life sometimes. So I would just love that would be the most interesting to me to find out people that did act. That's been the best part of this whole series, because even if we kind of get out in the clouds, sometimes we pull it back in and like, okay, what do we know for sure?
Right.
And I don't have the same memories that my sister has, and she was younger. But at the same time, what we know is that there was not anything that we know of internally that triggered this. And Maury Terry could have done a lot better job. But I do believe, because why wouldn't you want the Netos and the mailman? What?
Right.
Regardless of what happened with his life ending there on that street, which is not a coincidence.
Wait, who are you talking about now?
Regardless of whether not to just go, and he took his life. Right. But why wouldn't you want the bird's eye view of a person like you now, to get the detectives, to get the friends of Wheat Car, of the one who was shot? Why wouldn't you want that? That's good investigative reporting, not an agenda. And I don't know. He's not a writer. God love him, but may he rest in peace. But it was just a mess. And
well, I gotta say, I tend to agree with you. From the person who was the biggest Maury Terry fan when I started this series, I have to say I've come full circle, and for sure I agree with you 100%. All right, well, it doesn't seem like we have any callers calling in, which is unfortunate. I don't understand why people finally get the chance to speak to first person testimony and no one calls in, but that's the way it goes. All right, so final words, guys, from each one of you, starting with Tracey.
Okay, can you
unmute yourself too? Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Before the dog barking again, I just want to thank everybody in the audience, and Manny and Eric and Noel. And that if anyone did know our dad, who still lives in Yonkers, that they can get in touch with Manny and the show. And please do.
We're
Thank you.
very, very interested in. You're very welcome, Tracey. We're of course we're very interested in following up on anybody who might want to get in touch with us. Noel.
Same thing. I mean, I thank you for the work that you guys have done and we're continuing to do. And, mute Tracey. Okay. And I just.
Harvey. That's actually Berkowitz.
I think that's Berkowitz's soul.
Say it, Eric. Come on down. Bring us back into that time period that didn't even sound like that then, but I love it. No.
Noel, you're great.
Just keep, whatever we can do to keep the word out there. I mean, it's not to revive something that wasn't or to continue to bash Maury, Terry. It's to just find out from, I think, more and to set a model for this kind of investigative journalism. And I thank you for that because everyone's into the true crime broadcast now,
right.
But this is what they should be like.
I agree. I said to myself when I first started investigating that I do not want to do this out of newspapers or books. I want to speak to the actual people or I don't want to do it at all. So this has been a real dream come true for me. Noel, thank you so much. Eric, any final words?
Well, I just think that Tracey and Noel are as important to opening up another avenue, because I was also thinking that Berkowitz maybe was alone, but opening up another avenue as important as Patrick O'Shaughnessy and Judy Placido, known as Judy Placido. It keeps our minds open about something else being there.
I agree. I like to tell everybody that I believe Berkowitz acted alone, but I'm still open-minded if it can actually be proven. All right, guys. Well, that was great. Listen, I'm going to take you guys off and I'm going to outro for the crowd, say goodbye to everybody, and please stick around so I could say goodbye off the air. I'll just be another minute, guys. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Well, that was really a wonderful show. I had a blast. Emotional at times. We learned new information that we didn't know about Andrew Dupay. And now we can all come out of this with able to really kind of come to conclusions a little bit easier. Can we come to a final conclusion? Absolutely not. But we know now more than what we knew when we all woke up this morning. And that to me is one of the values of all this. So everybody, for Eric, for Tracey, and for Noel, I want to say thank you so much. We really appreciate all your great time today. We will see you next on Manny Reacts on Saturday morning, where I will be reacting to the Mr. Real Estate Nikolai Aman video. And then we begin it all again on Sunday morning with Psychiatric Sunday. So thank you so much, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.